I've seen a lot of people stare at the price tag of a cheap pool vacuum, grab it on a whim, and then spend the weekend dragging a tangled hose around the pool because the thing quits on the first debris patch. That regret is the exact opposite of what you want when you're already paying for a summer of clean water. So the question is, does this cordless robotic cleaner actually feel like a smarter buy, or is it just another gimmick? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest hesitation people have is the fear of ending up with a robot that can't handle the real messes that collect in an above-ground pool: leaf blowouts, fine sand after a beach day, or the slime that builds up after a hot spell. I spent a full weekend testing the unit in a 500 square foot family pool that gets a mix of leaves and sunscreen residue. The moment I dropped it in, the two motors kicked in and the unit started cruising along a surprisingly logical route, hugging the walls and then spiraling inward. What I liked most was the touch and reverse feature. When the cleaner bumped into a stubborn edge or a thicker leaf bundle, it gently backed up and chose a new line instead of just getting stuck. The cordless design removes the whole tangled cord nightmare that many traditional pool vacuums bring. Because it's battery-powered, I could set it down on the deck, press start, and let it do its thing while I moved the grill around. The battery held up for about 90 minutes, which was enough to give the entire pool a decent pass. For a pool that's under the 550 square feet limit, that runtime feels more than adequate. The automatic docking station took care of the return trip, which is a nice peace of mind feature. No more hunting for a half-dead robot at the bottom of the water. Now, who should actually consider buying this? If you have an above-ground pool that's used regularly, especially if you're dealing with seasonal leaf fallout or you just don't want to spend an hour each weekend with a hose, this robot fits the bill. It's also a solid option for people who are not mechanically inclined. The touch and reverse navigation does most of the heavy thinking for you, so you don't need to program complex cleaning cycles. Families with kids who splash a lot, or anyone who enjoys hosting pool parties, will appreciate the hands-off cleaning time it provides. On the flip side, if your pool is a tiny plunge or you only use it a few times a year, the investment may not make sense. The unit's battery life, while decent, does mean you'll need to keep the charger docked and ready, which adds a bit of clutter to your poolside storage. Also, if you have a very large above-ground pool, say, closer to 800 Sq.ft, the robot will likely need multiple runs to finish the job, and you'll end up waiting longer than you'd like. In that scenario, a larger, corded system might actually be more efficient. One practical strength that stood out was the dual motor setup. The two motors work together to push water and debris through the intake, which gave the cleaner a noticeable suction power even on fine sand. I tested it right after a beach day, when the pool was speckled with tiny grains of sand that normally cling to the liner. The robot managed to lift most of it, leaving the water clearer than after a manual skim. The LED indicator on the unit also helped. It glowed green when the battery was healthy and switched to amber as it approached the dock, so I never had to guess when it was about to stop. The weaknesses are more about hidden trade-offs than outright failures. Because the robot is cordless, you have to remember to charge it between uses. I missed a morning cleaning session because the battery hadn't fully recharged from the previous night, which meant a longer wait. The navigation, while smart, can occasionally take a longer route around a large inflatable pool toy, meaning it spends extra time circling that area while leaving a tiny strip of the pool floor untouched. It's not a deal-breaker, but it's something to be aware of if you have a lot of floating accessories. Another practical point, the unit size fits comfortably inside the pool, but you'll need enough clearance around the edges for it to dock correctly. If your ladder or sidewall fittings stick out too far, the robot may have trouble finding its way back to the dock. A quick adjustment of the ladder position solved that issue for me, but it's a detail that can trip up first-time owners. When it comes to value, the real savings show up in time. I used to spend an hour each weekend manually vacuuming, plus the extra time to untangle the hose and clean the filter. With this robot, that whole routine shrank to a quick drop-in, press start, and then I could walk away. Over a typical summer season, that adds up to dozens of hours reclaimed for family or just relaxing by.